I'm Clint Lambert, host today of the Wine Show with Jim Coulter, and we're going to have a conversation about wine, and we're going to start talking about a wine entrepreneur who started a winery in California, and that individual, Jim, was?
Peter Mondavi.
Peter Mondavi. Tell us about Peter.
Well, he passed away here a few weeks ago, and there's several articles in the paper, and I thought maybe it would be a nice tribute for our wine show to talk about him. The interesting thing about him is that Peter is the less famous, less well-known brother of the famous Robert Mondavi, who died several years ago and had one of the big successful wineries in California that brought a lot of fame to Napa in particular. Peter was Robert's younger brother. Peter was 101 when he died, and Robert was, I think, 94 when he died, I guess, 7, 8 years ago.
Wine is good for your health.
Yes, it is. And Peter said a glass of wine a day and a plate of pasta is why he attributed his longevity to that. But the family, the Peter Mondavi family, he and his parents, and then he and his wife, and now his kids, own the Charles Krug winery, which sells wine both under the Charles Krug name and C.K. Mondavi. Okay. It is the oldest continually operating winery in California, going back to the 1870s when it was founded by Charles Krug, who was a German immigrant to there. And the Mondavi family, Peter and Robert's parents, bought it in the 1940s for $75,000.
Wow.
They ran the winery along with the brothers Peter and Robert until the 1960s, when Peter and Robert got into a big fist fight arguing over how the winery was going to be run. Robert was a showman, an extrovert, an entrepreneur. Peter was more a introvert, more technically
competent.
Yeah, and he was more about the business of running it. Robert was more about making a big splash. So Robert left the winery. Their mother ran it until she passed away. Then Peter took over. And now that he's died, he's got 2 sons and grandchildren who are running the C.K. Mondavi winery in St. Helena, California. The reason I wanted to talk about him is not only because Mondavi is a famous name in the California wine industry, but both of the brothers were recognized by the industry for their contributions to it. Robert Mondavi, before he died, sold his Robert Mondavi winery for, I think it was $1.3 billion, which included them taking on a lot of the debt and so forth on that. But then he gave millions to charity in California, schools, performing arts centers, and so forth. Peter, in running the Charles Krug winery, from the 1940s through the 60s into the 70s, when the California wine exploded, he had Charles Krug Winery was buying land, investing in equipment, investing in technology. He was the first one to bring in French oak barrels for aging their wines. He was one of the early adapters and pioneers of the cold fermentation process, which
I was going to say, explain that if you would.
I'll explain that because that had a huge impact on white wines in California. Now it's pretty much the standard throughout the wine making world. But the idea was that in the old days, the fermentation, which was basically the introduction of yeast into the wine juice, which then the yeast would start eating the sugars and would create carbon dioxide and turn the sugars into alcohol. The process of fermentation generates heat as the third element that's produced in that, and the heat would change the character of the wine. Now, in the old days, they just used large open top mostly either cement or redwood vats,
right.
and the carbon dioxide would go off into the atmosphere, and the heat would change the character of the wine during the process.
Right.
So the wine industry, and Peter Mondavi was in the forefront of this movement, came up with stainless steel tanks with a jacket around the outside through which they would pump ice water, and then later they used, I think it was glycol or ethylene glycol, which is a coolant,
right.
and that would stabilize the temperature at which the fermentation happened and maintain it at a stable level. And then when they wanted to stop the fermentation process, they would just lower the temperature and the process would stop.
Okay.
And the added benefit of this was that the extreme cold would also precipitate out the tartrate crystals, which a lot of times you'll see in a wine that's been frozen or gotten hot, have crystals stuck inside the cork and so forth. And the cold fermentation pretty much stopped most of that.
Okay.
So that and a lot of other enological things. He was a big backer for the UC Davis wine program at the university and so forth. So it's, you know, I just wanted to mention that he was the last of the 12 great Napa Valley wine pioneers that were recognized 20 or so years ago.
You just mentioned there were 12 of them.
Yeah.
Your recall good enough to tell us each one?
No, it's not.
Okay.
But I assumed you were going to ask that. But no, I don't. But I think Robert Mondavi was one. I could probably think about it for a while and come up with some names. Okay. But we've mentioned a lot of them on the show in previous years, and that's something that I'll make a note to myself. I'll look that up. Maybe we'll talk about those 12 on a future show.
Because they really had a major impact.
They did. These were the guys that pioneered the use of grape varieties, winemaking processes. A lot of the things in California. The wine tasting of 1976, where California beat the French in French tasting. All of the guys that were involved in the steps leading up to that, and since then in marketing California wines worldwide, were guys that were recognized by the industry as being the pioneers that made California wines what they are today. And so we should talk about them.
And the real starting point for that was 1976.
That's right.
I mean, that's when California really became famous and recognized as being a wine producing area. Yeah,
and there was a great movie came out a few years ago called Bottle Shock about that, and I keep thinking that I should host some wine themed movies like Sideways and Bottle Shock and so forth. French Kiss is another one that has a couple of good scenes in it about winemaking. So maybe one of these, October's Virginia Wine Month or something. Maybe I'll get with the people that control the access to the theater and see if I can put on some wine themed movies that month.
Yeah, sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, get somebody that likes to talk to introduce them. Maybe Elaine Sorensen or Bob Seegers.
And maybe we can do a wine tasting or something out in the lobby prior to the movie.
That would be a good idea. Yeah. Get something going with dining services. They don't do anything for us.
Oh yeah, they do a tremendous amount for us. They really do. And in regards to that, I don't know how many people realize that. Woodland Skies is trying to go away from the small bottles and start using the big bottles again.
I think that would be really good.
Yeah. And so they've introduced some new wines, and I really would encourage people to check them out.
Good. I think that's a great idea. I think that there are a lot of residents here who, for medical or personal taste issues, don't drink wine. But I think there's a lot of people like myself who drink wine regularly. I know quite a few times in the dining room I'll ask people if they'd like a glass of wine, and I bring some, and some of them say, well, we've already had a half a bottle at the apartment before we came down here. Whether they'd be amenable to buying wine in the dining room, I don't know, but as long as we can bring our own wine there, selling wine probably will never be a big profit center for them. But I think as an amenity issue to having it available there. Well, I think they should have the best wine that they can provide at a reasonable price.
Right, and they're really looking at the price point.
Yeah,
that they have.
And that's the thing. There's resistance at any price point when you're talking about luxury items like wine or good cigars or anything else. People don't want to spend more than X number of dollars, and that varies with each individual.
Yeah. We're talking about California and all the wine that came out of California. Is there anything that is going on with California wines now that's different or is modernized in any fashion?
Well, a lot of the technology of wine is changing over time. In the last, I would say, 8 or 10 years, things have improved in the stabilization of and transportation of wine. One of the problems that they've had in the past was when you put wine in a bottle, then you got to pack the bottles into a cardboard case, stack the cardboard cases on pallets, put them on trucks, and even if the trucks are temperature controlled, by the time the truck travels from California across the country, or even if they put them on a container car and a train and send them across, there's chance of breakage of the bottles. There's temperature issues, and the percentage of wine that ends up getting spoiled or ruined is depending on what numbers you look at, is anywhere 5 to 15%.
Wow.
And that includes issues with cork taint, or sometimes people say the cork ruined the wine in the bottle when really it was the bottle got heated up to 110 degrees as the truck is going across Arizona and New Mexico in the middle of summer. So screw tops have come into wide usage. Now you can buy expensive bottles of wine with screw tops on them so that they don't have corks. The cork industry has done a lot with improving the cork manufacturing process so that the sterilization of the corks is done better. A lot of wine now is, I've seen in the stores, I see that you now see some wine is coming in square bottles as opposed to round bottles, which means that they can be stacked and boxed more efficiently. A lot of wine is being shipped in bulk now. They'll put it in a big, like a milk truck, or they'll put it into a large container and ship it by railroad to the Midwest, and then bottle it at a bottling plant there and distribute it, sort of like what DHL and UPS do with their packages. Send it all to a central point and distribute it out of there.
And then you've got boxed wines.
That's right. And the quality of the wine in boxes is vastly improved. Still, it's more or less considered a mass-produced wine. Most of the wines that we buy as consumers in the stores for $5.95 to $10.95 a bottle are made in large quantities so that they can sell at that price point. Trader Joe's is a big one that buys a lot of their wine in bulk, and I'm sure Whole Foods and Safeway and Giant all have their own.
And that way they can put their own label on those.
That's right. They can put their label on, and you can buy the same wine in 3 or 4 different stores with different labels on it, and it's all the same thing. Box wine is the same thing. You can buy 3 liters or 5 liter boxes of wine, and that's something else that Eck and I talked about years ago. Is I've got an empty box at home that I'm gonna cut the top off of and bring it in here one day, and we'll spend 5 minutes talking about the technology of box wines and why buying wines in boxes for an audience like this, or for
a single person.
Single person, or for a fraternity or sorority house at a college or something. If they're going to be having parties and mixers, you can buy 5 liters, which is 5, 6, about 7 bottles of wine equivalent. I know 3 liters is 4 bottles of wine. You can buy it in large quantity, and the wine doesn't go bad, because when you take wine out, pour it in a glass, or if you transfer it to a smaller bottle to take to the dining room with you, air doesn't get into the wine. It's got a collapsible bladder inside.
Which is really a positive. I mean, because so many times, if you open a bottle of wine, if you don't get it corked, recorked right, or you leave it open too long, you start deteriorating the wine. And so with the box with the bladder that shrinks down on itself, keeps the air out. And
you have many couples here who, one likes white wine and one likes red wine. Or the case of my wife and I, will both drink both kinds, but usually we only take one bottle to the dining room. If you've got boxes of red and white wine, you keep the white in the refrigerator so it's chilled. keep the red sitting on the counter, and then whatever you're going to have for dinner that night, you just fill up a smaller bottle from the 5-liter box. Take that to the dining room with you. And it's more economical from a purchase standpoint also. You can buy, if you buy it in a 3 or 5 liter box, depending on how much you pay for the box, you can pay less than $3 a bottle for a 750 milliliter. And for a better wine, many times. And it's the advantage of that is that if you pay attention to the wines in bottles, if there's certain brands that you like in bottles, a lot of those mass market brands are available in boxes, and you can usually, if a place like Total Wine or Giant or Safeway, usually if you ask them, can you get this wine in boxes, usually they'll say, yeah, we can get, but we have to order 4 boxes or 2 boxes at a time. Do you want to order both of them? Usually a place like Total, if you want to order a half a case of wine, well, they'll just order a whole case and sell you 6 bottles and put the other 6 on the shelf, and somebody will buy those. And that's something I think people need to recognize, is that you can always ask a proprietor to order for you. Same thing here with dining services. If they were working on a wine list, I'm sure they would love to have residents say, can you get this wine for your wine list? Or if you're going to have an event catered, tell them what kind of wines you want. Why should you go to Total and bring them back if you can get them to do all the heavy lifting for you? I don't mind dragging 3 cases of wine back, but not everybody here can do that. Some people don't have cars. Some people can't lift 3 cases. Some people, like you, for example, are just too lazy to lift 3 cases of wine. But not everybody can do that. And I'm sure the catering people can use their suppliers to order you just about any kind of wine you wanted. And also in the dining rooms. I mean, there's always there's a person responsible for the wines. And tell that person. Even if they can't get you what you want, if you tell them what you want, they might be able to talk to their suppliers and say, well, this is the same kind of grape from the same area, but it's a different producer. We'll get you a bottle of that and see if you'd like to try it. Yeah, because I know that G down at Woodland Skies is the one that orders and is responsible for that. And he was just telling me the other day that all the bottles he's doing now with this new push of going back to the bigger bottles all have screw tops, which really makes it much handier, much easier to deal with. And the price point is $6. So that's what he's trying to stay below, and he's even looking at better wines for decreased price. Yeah, and just like with regular restaurants outside, a lot of times I've been at restaurants and somebody says, well, I just want a glass of Syrah or whatever, and the guy says, well, we don't have it available by the glass, but we've got one here. We'll open a bottle of it and sell you a glass for $10. And I say, well, I like that one, so I'll get that. And then they go to the bar and tell the bartender, okay, we got an open bottle of wine here, sell a couple of glasses for $10 each. And all of a sudden, their $25 bottle of wine, they've sold 3 $10 glasses out of it. And, so they've made their $5. They're happy, and everybody's pleased. Very good. So there's a lot can be done just by asking people. And I know dining services is always encouraging people to fill out comment cards if you want something added to the menu, or if you've got ideas. They're probably still saying, give us recipes if you want us to put stuff in the computer at corporate, and then we can add that to the rotation if they think there's
because Eli, being the new director of dining services, is really looking for input and wants restaurant input in regards to the menu and also in regards to the wines. So.
I think that's probably true of most of the things here. Green Spring, in my experience, never wants to discourage getting resident input. They don't always listen to us. I mean, they listen to us, but they don't always do what we ask them to.
Right.
But they'll listen, and I've seen things that I know when years ago residents talked to management about that couldn't or didn't get done then. Or I've seen over time those things have, like the new cable TV contract, used one of the methods that we talked about with them years ago. But it takes a long time for corporate people to get to get things changed. It's like dealing with any bureaucracy. Change takes time.
I mean, I just have to share the fact of the TV situation. I mean, that was a good 5-year process in regards to that. So
it takes time.
Takes time. Other issues with wines, the things that are happening with wines?
Well, I think one of the things that I would like residents to remember, if you enjoy wine with your food, dinners with the chef are a great way.
Yes.
They used to do something called wine forums here, where it was discussions of wine followed by dinner. There aren't any of those on the calendar so far this year, but I know we have dinners with the chef coming up. I think one in May, May, and then again late June. We've got a seafood dinner coming up, and a couple of more dinners with the chef. So if you like wine and you've never tried dinners with the chef, I think that's a great way to have a nice dinner with a glass of wine with each course, or more than one glass if you want.
Sure,
they have what they call bottomless glasses of wine there. You can until you fall out of your chair like I did one night. They'll keep filling your glass up if you ask for it.
However, they do watch what's going on.
They do. I'm kidding. I'm kidding about that.
They really do. And people are very conscious of how much other friends are drinking in regards to it.
And the price, I don't know, it's $50 or $55 with wine. And if you don't want wine, then
it's
just
45,
go for the food, because
the
food is great.
Yeah, it's excellent. It really is.
I think that's a great way. And if you're a new resident watching this show and you haven't heard about dinners with the chef, why ask somebody in the dining room to tell you about it. Or watch Channel 6 for the announcements. I want to say May 5th or something.
Yes, it's somewhere in May.
I know Eli was on the other day, and he said he was going to check the schedule and so forth. I know Michael Ritt is doing the next one, and he didn't know the other day when he and I were talking about it. So,
but if people are curious about the dinners with the chef and they don't have anywhere else to turn to, go down to the first floor in actually the terrace level, I think what it's called, in Town Center, and go to the dining services office and talk to Eli or talk to Michael Ritt or Phyllis, who are all there.
In fact, one of the things people might be interested in is if Phyllis is down there, she might be able to give them a sample of menu from previous dinners with the chef.
Yeah, but with all the things with wine and all the things that are happening with food here, one of the things that I personally have a concern with and have noticed and I've heard about is the wine glasses that seem to kind of disappear.
Yeah, those were very interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why. Well, one of the reasons I'm sure had something to do with was the changeover in dining services director, and they probably didn't want to schedule a bunch of stuff and then dump it on the new guy when he first got here. But I don't know if where Eli is in his getting his feet on the ground and starting to run. I assume he's got plenty of things to keep him busy with the new signature menu program and updates to the menus. I know they're just starting now, adding more items to the menus, and so he's probably got his hands full with a lot of things. But if those of us that are interested in wine tasting and anybody that's been to the previous wine forums, wants to contact dining services and tell them we thought that was a great idea, we should do more of those.
Sure.
I'm sure he'll listen and entertain them and talk to the people who know what went on and see what they can do. I thought it was a great idea.
But I just hope people stop taking wine glasses from the dining room after they have partaken of them, or come down after hours and take the wine glasses. The glasses are disappearing, it seems like. And so,
and this is just when they've been buying newer, better wine glasses than what they had before.
Yeah.
So that people are replacing all the ones they stole previously with the new upgraded glasses they're stealing now. Yeah. Well, that's not good. They may have to start locking those up, which would be too bad, because
really would be.
storage of all these things. I mean, I'm sure the new wavy plates are taking up a lot more storage room too. So maybe we should encourage people to steal those instead of the wine glasses. Yeah.
But the nice thing is, though, the fact that there are glasses available.
Nice wine glasses.
Yeah.
If you're going to be drinking, you're going to be bringing your own. You want to bring a $10 or $20 bottle of wine if you've got friends or relatives coming to visit or something. Yeah. Well, it's nice to have nice glasses to drink it out of.
Exactly.
Because it does make a difference.
Yeah, it really does. However, you can drink out of a quart jar too.
Yes, I've drank many things out of mason jars in my life.
But with all of this, and with the wines that are available, our local wine stores that we have very conveniently located here are Total, Trader Joe's, Giant, Safeway.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the shuttle bus goes to Whole Foods or not, but they've got a nice wine selection.
Yeah.
And I know they run trips to Wegmans. They have a huge wine section there, all kinds of price points.
Yeah. And Wegmans is a superb place to go and taste wine.
Yep.
I mean, they have a wine tasting almost every weekend.
Yeah, and Total does too, but and Trader Joe's usually on the weekends has 2 or 3 of their wines available for tasting. But Wegmans also is a nice place to go. They got eating places there. You can go have a sandwich at lunch and get a glass of
whatever,
Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, whatever to wash down your sandwich with.
Well, as always, we hope people enjoy the drink that they have, enjoy the wine that they have, but drink safely and be conscious of what you're drinking, how much you're drinking.
And the most important thing is to enjoy it.
Yes,
if you don't enjoy wine and you don't want to start drinking, then don't start drinking.
Exactly.
But if you do like it, this is a good, safe place to drink wine.
Yes, it is.
Because you don't have to drive anywhere afterwards.
Right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for being on the show again today.
It's always fun.
I'll always enjoy having you and learning from you, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, because now I've got my assignments for things we're going to have for future shows.
There you go. Very good. Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed the show today.